Good morning. Well, we are in the month of March, and March is Women's History Month. And we are starting off a new series, Women and Words. So we have basically reached out to four authors in which we will be engaging with them in the books they have written. And today we are starting out with Miss Liz Garcia. And we're going to be talking to Liz about her book and what inspired her to get started. But the main thing is we're inspired by women. We've named 2021 the year of the woman and pretty much focusing on most of our events around women. So without further ado, I'd like to bring on Miss Liz Garcia.
Hello, thank you for having me. Thank
Hey,
you.
Liz, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you.
Great, great, great. So here we are. Um, it is Women's History Month, and women are doing so much. I mean, we talk about our county. We have a first female mayor ever. We have our first female vice president ever. So
Yeah.
women are doing some amazing things. And so we're going to talk about um, authors this month. And I'm so happy to have you on as the first author that we will be featuring. So let's talk about how you got started, what even got you interested in being an author.
It kind of was one of those things that occurred through, I would say what we normally would say, a pain through your purpose. So I've always wanted to write about something, but I didn't know that it was going to be about this topic, self-care, which anyway coincides with the business that I have. But it happened because of 2019. At that season, my daughter was pregnant with triplets, and therefore we went through a series of ups and downs, as it was a very traumatic experience, but as well, it was a pregnancy that was due to a lot of difficulties carrying triplets. And in the process of that, I felt that there was a need for self-care and watching that whole dynamics unfold.
Right. So the book that you wrote is called I Shall Arise. And how did you come up with that name?
So, like, I'm gonna go back in 2019 when we she did deliver on April 3, a healthy. They were delivered, all three of them. But unfortunately, because of the size of the triplets, two of them did pass away 6 days apart from the delivery. One 6 days, and the other one was 7 days. And so that's hard and that's very hurtful. And but we still had to continue. We still had to get up. I still had to assist my daughter through that process. There was funeral arrangements to be made. There was decisions to be made, and we still had one triplet to fight for. So I Shall Arise came from when I didn't want to get up. I would just hear this voice that says, "Get up. You shall arise." And I would tell myself, "I shall arise." And every day I had to tell myself that. And when I wrote the book, I thought of that same saying.
Okay. So your book is about self-care, and I guess, a lot of people think about self-care, but um, why does self-care matter?
It's very important. It's a target with our mental state. So if we're not taking care of ourselves, and a lot of times we think that we're selfish within taking care of ourselves when we say, "I'm going to go do this because of our family, children, work, uh, deadlines that need to be met." But we need to find a place in ourselves that we say, "Today I'm doing this for me." And this reason is because later on, when we feel too overburdened, we unconsciously know, "Hey, you know what? I need to take a break, a minute, because it's going to overwhelm me." And you can have a mental breakdown. So we want to prevent that. So it's really a prevention. It's a guide. It's a book. It's a short read, but it's mostly about how not to get to that point.
Okay. And I had the opportunity to read some of the book. I didn't get through all of the book, but I know you talk about physical self-care, you talk about psychological self-care, spiritual, pampering yourself. So from a physical perspective, give me your thoughts on that.
Well, physical is important because it's our inner and we need time to sleep. In the book, it does talk about a list of things, a guideline of physical self care, eating healthy, taking time to work out, taking time to sleep. Because sometimes, if we do have, like I said, a deadline or things that are going on, we think that we need to go and go and go. And no, you need to take time to sleep and rest. Your body is the functional fuel that takes you from A to point A to B to C. So we need to take care of our inner as well as if we do our outer.
So, how do you look at physical care? I know finding the time to actually do this. We all have, we only have so many hours in a day, and finding the time to actually um, be focused on your physical being, your mental being, your spiritual being, so on and so forth. So how do you subscribe to someone to really manage that process?
Well, with everything, it's a schedule. We know that if you have to be at work at a certain time, then maybe you should get up a little earlier to take that time to maybe do your spiritual praying. Maybe it's a lunch break that you go and say, I'm going to go on my by myself to sit at a park and take some mental inner time for myself. So it's you setting that schedule or getting getting with a partner and holding each other accountable.
Okay. So, and explain that a little bit more. How does someone hold one another accountable?
So you can find somebody, even if you both can't coincide to go to the gym at the same time, you can say to each other, well, we're going to work out 3 times a week, and you hold each other accountable for that.
Okay. Um, and again, from a mental perspective, and again, this whole thing of physical self care, having the ability to actually go into a workout routine. There's so many different ways. What are some ways that you suggest that people do this?
You can go walking. There's YouTube University. You can turn on the YouTube. You can find a workout on YouTube because of what we're going through COVID. And if you feel the need that you do not want to be in a setting that's surrounded like that, you can, if you can go to the alternative route, hire a trainer. But if finances doesn't find you there, there's YouTube University. You can do it with your family and set a schedule and go for it. And once you do something, periodically, your body's going to want it. After 21 days, your body's going to feed on that.
Okay. And I know you talk about psychological self care, and I know the news so much, there's so much negativity on the news. We get caught up in social media, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, and all of us. I'm guilty, and all of us are guilty to some. I wouldn't say all of us, because some people don't tune into to social media at all. But I know from a business perspective, social media is important. That you use social media in your business. But again, from a psychological perspective, let's talk about that a little bit.
But when I said a psychological perspective, I meant that you have to protect what you're watching, just what you said, watching too much of the news. Of course, we need to be informed, but overloading on that can really cause your mental state to find yourself in a depressed mode, crying. Well, all of a sudden you're driving and something may trigger that and you're crying and not even knowing why. It's because you've fed your mind so much negativity, and then you can get to a point where it can trigger post-traumatic stress disorders. Something from the past can trigger it. So we have to be careful what we're feeding our mind.
Okay. And then, I mean, your book is full of anecdotes and full of information. And you talk about spiritual self care, pampering yourself, the empty nest. And it was interesting when I was reading the part about the empty nest, and obviously, your children going off to college or just moving out. Period. They may
Yeah.
have gone off to college and come back home, and now they either bought their own home or decided to rent their own place or move in with friends, get married, or however it happens. But the one interesting thing that I probably a lot of us don't think about you talked about people retiring, and you work your life. You probably spend more of your life with the folks that you work with because you're there, obviously, prior to COVID, and a lot of us are working from home now. But prior to that, you're working in an environment, and you're with those folks probably more than you're with your family. And now all of a sudden you are retiring and you are home, and now you got to create these new routines. So talk about that a little bit.
So I put that in there because I went through that one time. When my second son left off to college already, my daughter had left, my son, and I thought I'd be like hip hip hooray, but it wasn't like that. It was sort of, now here I am, so used to, like what we talked about, that routine, all about them dropping off, taking off, figure out their schedule so my schedule could coincide with their schedule. Then now here's all this open schedule, all this open avenues. So it could be, you can get to a point where you're like, okay, what do I do with this time? So finding things, calling old friends, getting into a new routine quickly before you just start focusing on this. It's a loss. You start feeling like it's a loss. These were your children. They were home. You had this schedule going with them. So now it's finding your time and routine. But how do you avoid that? By pre-doing that before they leave.
Okay.
Because I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What about the retirees?
The retirees.
Right.
So my book is really gauged on more trying to get people to start doing it now. So when you're retired, okay, well, I like to do these things. I like to go swimming because, as you know, if you're on somebody else's schedule or doing for somebody else, you kind of fall into that routine where you don't even know yourself at that time what you like. So if you're a retiree and you have this time on your hand, or you can start reading a book, you can start a book club, but finding things that are positive and things to engage in and getting involved in things.
Okay. And then part of your book, you talk about after a breakup and self-care.
Yes.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
So I believe that after a breakup, you should take care of yourself. That is also like a grieving time. You were with somebody, your mindset took you to a place where you envisioned yourself with this individual. So taking some time for you and figuring out you, because sometimes we could get into the blame game. What did I do wrong? And we can fall into that. And I also talked about not publicizing it, not talking about the person, just focusing on you and getting into you.
Okay. So again, you wrote this book, and here we are. So what's next in terms of this whole self-care? And I know you're more than just the book that you wrote. So talk about Liz and the self-care and the business that you're involved in.
The business that I'm involved in is the beauty bar business, where I provide services to individuals. So I am my brand. So the book is just another stepping stone of things that I saw occurring. And I really feel that we use the word self-care loosely, and we really don't understand what it means. So I kind of broke it down. It has a journal in the back. So if ever you find yourself in a place, you can always refer back. We have dictionaries. We have so much ways to find, but I didn't find something that can coincide. So what's next for me is spreading the word, because we need to heal. 2020 was a very interesting year, and now we're in 2021, and it's the aftermath. It's where people will now, sometimes you're going, and you don't understand what just happened. A lot of people lost members in their family. It was a season that people were home. So we have to really pay attention. So my thing is to spread the word of healing, of self-care, and making sure that we're looking out for one another. We are, we say we're our sister's keepers, we are our brother's keepers. So looking out for each other. So I really want to spread that word.
So if someone wants to learn more about Liz's business and her business model and the self-care, how can they get in touch with you?
So I am on Instagram as Elizabeth Secret Beauty Bar, and I'm also on Facebook as Liz Garcia. And the book is on Amazon, so you can go on Amazon and purchase it.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad we had this opportunity to talk about I Shall Arise, and I wish you nothing but the best with your book.
Thank you.
Um, you know, we started this book series when before COVID had hit, and we were actually meeting at the Oasis in Miami Gardens with my good friend Danny Felton. So hopefully soon we'll be able to do in-person events, and we'll definitely invite you back so that you can do a book signing. But again, tell folks how they can get your book.
The book is on Amazon, so you would go on Amazon and just type in "I Shall Arise." It's the only book that says "I Shall Arise" on there.
All
Thank you
right.
very much for having me on. You and your staff were excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And again, this has been the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce, Women and Words. If you want to get in touch with the chamber, find out more. And we will continue this book series as I said, we're doing this. We have 4 authors this month. And I believe next week we have T.K. Pratt. And we have coming up also Miss Jessica Motkins, as well as Miss Priscilla Dames. And so please tune in next Wednesday and the Wednesday for the next 4 weeks. And we will be featuring these authors. But starting again in April, we will be doing this once a month, featuring an author as well. So if you want to learn more about the chamber, go to www.m-dcc.org or call the chamber at 305-751-8648, 305-751-8648. This is the Miami-Dade Chamber, Women in Words. Thank you.